It has been a rough month in the overall stock market, whether you're in crypto, uranium stocks, blue chips, whatever it is, it's been pretty rough. Now in this video, I'm going to be going over the overall market and all of those, uranium and the overall stock market. But I want to also touch back on some of my biggest gains and losses and missed opportunities in the stock market in the last 5 years. I recently hit the 16th year anniversary of my stock trading. So I want to kind of reflect and look back at the 5 years to give you some encouragement. And like I said before, I think that we're in uranium, we're seeing this possible bear trap going on. And I'll give some charts and I'll give some data. The fundamentals have not changed for uranium. I think the overall stock market was due for somewhat of a correction, but we got inflation coming. I think that there's going to be money flowing back into, the commodities, especially, we saw a little retrace on commodity prices. We're going to jump right into this. Hit the like and subscribe button below, please, if you like these videos. So first things first, we'll go over uranium. You can see all of the uranium companies. If you look at the chart here, just basic, a lot of them just trade exactly the same. When we saw the big moves with SPUT, a lot of these stocks are still up from Sprott Physical Uranium Trust. So we are actually down off the 52-week high in every, pretty much every stock here. Some 20 to 60% off. Now, have the fundamentals changed? No. Uranium fundamentals are getting better and better and better. When people look at the uranium market, it's still very tiny, so they can be very volatile. And I think that what we saw in the last couple months, it might actually be a bear trap. And, I've given some charts about that. We'll kind of go over that quickly. But you can see a lot of them are still very, very high percentage gains since the bottom in March of 2020. But, a lot of people got in, a lot of new investors have got in, pretty late. So this is some words of encouragement. I'm going to go over some of the stocks that I found the bottom in the last 5 years, how much they went up. And I'll tell you what, like some of those, when I first got into them and they continued to go down, it was very hard, especially when it's, you're invested a lot into the companies. You do all the homework, you believe in them. And, like I said, with uranium, nothing has changed. Sprott Physical Uranium Trust started, a few months ago, and we're still up, 40+%. And that's, just with the spot price since then. And we had this 1 month run, we went 58% up, which is a big run. And, the people were starting to see how the market would trade, and, the U.S. Sprott listing for Sprott Physical Uranium Trust, they had some issues where, they changed the OTC rules, so the volume left. So I think once that starts to come back, I think Sprott, they'll be at a premium, and they'll start to buy up a lot more pounds. But as of right now, nothing has changed. We saw the biggest run there in 2006 when most of the uranium stocks hit their all-time highs. The spot price went up, 202% in 12 months. We're far from that. We're 3 months in, and we have a lot of room to get there. And I think with inflation, this should already have been adjusted. But, just touching back on the losses that, we've seen 20 to, 60%, there's a possibility, if you have cash, that there's 150% upside just to get back to the 52-week high. Do I think that we can hit those 52-week highs again? 100%. I know that these stocks, eventually when the price of uranium comes in, a lot higher, this long-term contract start, a lot of these stocks are going to have a big upside and the money will flow back. A lot of the investors that invested in there, they're going to want to come back. So, what I can tell you, with the overall market, with uranium, this is the uranium, just a quick chart here. It's looking like a bull flag starting to come in. And, I honestly, I'm a long-term investor. You look back 25 plus years, you can see that peak that we had, that big run that we had those few years is starting again, I believe. Okay. That's where I think we're really at. The fundamentals have never been better, okay? The fundamentals, we've got China saying that they're reportedly plan to build 150 nuclear reactors over the next 15 years, okay? You want to look back at the chart here during this time. This was when China's 5-year plan at the time, I believe it was the 11th, they said that they were supporting nuclear reactors back then, and they were going to start to build them. And that really was what really helped start to push. Now, then you get in here, and then you had issues with mines flooding, the biggest mines in the world there, having issues. And, this really started to mess with the supply. We're seeing the same thing happen, okay? Same thing, possible issues with permitting, supply mines not coming up, getting those permits. And I'm gonna go over that, especially with Cameco, because that's who had this issue last time. And I see the same things happening over again. The next thing is 30 plus reactors that Japan had. They're looking to bring them back online. They did this last week. They already brought another one back up online. So you're seeing a lot of the exact same things happen. And I believe that not only with inflation, we're going to see a lot of money flow into here because, a lot of people are going to look to invest in physical commodities, and uranium is one of those that I think that you're going to see a lot of, investors come back to. We just had this: Saudi Arabia raises oil prices for Asia and US customers. So, funny, the demand's not really going down like they thought it would. And you had this scare in the market. I think this is going to be good. Overall, when we saw oil prices going up, we saw uranium running too. Overall market on Friday, this is what it looked like. This is the overall market here. Of course, it's down. It's going to pull everything down with it. Majority of the big stocks, are down. People get scared. A lot of new investors in the market. So the fundamentals have not changed at all for uranium. The overall market was due probably for a correction. But like I was saying earlier, I posted this. I think that this is the first, this phase of the bear trap, okay, in this parabolic move. I posted this last September of 2020, and I think that this is probably where we're at. I think this is a long-term bull market. We didn't have some of the things like Sprott Physical Uranium Trust even, thought of at this point. And we didn't see that type of volume. We didn't see the equities run as much until, in the last few months where we saw this big run. So we might actually be here, this big sell-off. Now, if you notice on the chart here, if you can actually see that, this was China's 5-year plan when we saw this big run up, and then Cigar Lake, we had the floods. And then, that just pushed prices up. Utilities got scared. I think that's going to happen, over again, just the same. So what was I talking about with Cameco? Well, I did see this, and I posted this last week. The Cameco is getting pushed back on its upcoming license renewal in February. So this is by the First Nations there. And this, in my opinion, could be one of the single biggest uranium supply events that we've seen in multiple years. And one of the reasons were because the refinery there, they're getting some pushback for this renewal. And I think this renewal will happen, but they might have some pushback. It might delay some things. Now, this is the pipeline for the fuel cycle. It's a multi-year cycle. And if this refinery, if anything happens with it, we're going to see some real issues. Here. Now, like I said, I don't think that it's not going to happen, but we're going to listen to what the First Nation tribes has pretty much said. I'll go over that. They're basically looking to bring up the fact that before Cameco even, acquired this refinery, that there were Indian burial grounds there, and that, the construction, they just did away with all the, a lot of artifacts and things, and they didn't respect it. So the First Nation there, MFN, they actually said that they also raised health and environmental concerns about the refinery. And like I said, the graves they disturbed. So the company's requesting a 10-year extension, right, past its current license. That ends in February. So the CNSC, they're looking to, before February, they're going to, determine if they're going to get this full renewal, if it's going to be a long approval for this permit. But what's really interesting, and by the way, this tribe is actually, I'm Ottawa, and this tribe is actually a part of, there's 3 tribes there, and they're actually a part of my tribe. So in some ways, I have a connection with this. And, I do find it, it's a very sad thing that this happened. It's not necessarily Cameco's fault, but I do think that, there could be some pushback. Remember, the people voting for these type of, things, they were not here last, uranium bull market, more than likely. You got a lot of different outlooks on, on the way things, are voted nowadays. They're not as necessarily as conservative as they were before. So you never know. But my point is, if that fuel cycle, if anything gets, kinked up in that cycle, I think uranium prices are going to, jump like crazy. And I think utilities are probably going to overshoot contracting a lot sooner, because Cameco is going to be on the phone with them and saying, hey, we're having issues. Will that happen? Probably not, a long-term effect, but I think it could in the short term, especially because February, that's last minute. It's not approved yet. It comes up in February, but the same place there in Ontario, they are, pro-nuclear. So the Darlington Nuclear Power Plant to receive its first new reactor in decades. So like I said, they need it. They're very pro uranium, overall there, but whoever's voting on this, who knows what could happen. My point is, we didn't really see those, people didn't see those things coming, with the mine flooding and those kink ups last time. So that is something on my radar. And like I said, uranium, it's very volatile, to the up and downside. So we see something like that happen, it's big for the upside. Another thing is China is developing a nuclear reactor for space travel 100 times more powerful than what NASA has. So this, along with NASA, these are both brand new articles. Electricity on the Moon, NASA starts accepting proposals for establishing lunar nuclear power systems by 2030. This will use uranium, okay? So this was my thesis long-term, past 2030, that uranium can be in high demand, not only because of, obviously, on the Earth, these SMRs and just new reactor builds, 150 from China, they're going to be starting to want to use these in space, and they're going to want to, soak up a lot of that fuel, buy up a lot of that fuel. So these are just some way long-term things I think is very positive for uranium. But, overall, really what I want to touch on this video is show you that, back when I was investing, in a lot of stocks that were, I guess, at a bottom, and they were somewhat contrarian plays. We'll go over those, but it was rough time. It was a rough time, but all those stocks are up, life-changing since then. And I wanted to show you those. And one of those was Tesla. Now, this was back, I believe this was back May of 2019. I said, Tesla, wow, I cannot believe, people. Long-term, in my opinion, this will be $1,000 plus. Now, this was pre-split. So the stock was $45, post-split. And now the stock is over $1,000. So it's ran 2,282% since then. And, it was a rough time. And I think the stock had actually dropped, after this even more. So, I was labeled crazy. People were like, whatever, I don't see that happening. But it actually went up to 2,600%, at its peak from that day. Okay, so I did the work back then. I really like Teslas. I got to see them. I wanted Cybertruck. I put in, order for Cybertrucks, and I believed in Elon. Okay, so I did the homework there, and look, it's up. People thought it would have been crazy to invest back then, and that's not even the craziest one. The next one, GameStop. This was back before any coverage last year. I was long, this was August. And I posted this and said, look at the stock MCRB for the possible short squeeze. And it ran 600% that day. And I was telling them that this was 96% short interest there in GameStop. And I said that it could have the same move. It was $5 then, and it ran 5,000%. And at its peak, I believe it was around 10,017 or 176%, 10,176%. So I invested about $126,000, I think it was, when this news of about $5. Now, I did not even closely see the peak of GameStop. And the thing was, is I thought that there could be a massive squeeze. I said, this almost, this has almost complete short interest of 96%. And then I said it will have a massive squeeze like MCRB had. And I was right. Okay, I did the homework on it. I saw this before really anyone was putting it out there. This was, like I said, this was in August. I don't even know. I really didn't even see hardly anyone, only bearish people talking on the message boards about this. And look at that. That was a 12, plus $1 million profit. It would have been, didn't even get close to the top. So I listened to the market. I sold way too early. Same thing with Tesla. Didn't even closely find the peak. But it was tough because there was a lot of downsides in both of these. Next one, you kind of already know. This is Cameco. Also, all of the uranium stocks. I put all the tickers here, but this was 600+%. I think it picked up UEC on there. But I said this is March of 2020. This is about to see 2007 prices when uranium supply is gone in the next few months. Demand is going to go through the sky. So, that was back when, a lot of these, Paladin specifically was one that I invested in, and it's gone up. Actually, it was like 4,000%, I think, at the 52-week high. But, we saw that in, 1,800%. Now, I forgot to tell you guys, this was from the peak from when I posted this. It was 31 months. That's all. 31 months, boom, 2,000%. Same thing. GameStop, it was 5 months. 10,000% it hit that. From the time that I did the due diligence, did the work, it hit that. Same thing, 18 months, we hit 2,500% there with Paladin. Okay, from when I invested in it, I believed in it. Next one, we'll go farther back. This was in 2017. So this was AMD. One of the reasons was I was buying, video cards, and I bought a video card in 2017. And I was like, AMD is doing, gaming was getting a lot bigger and bigger. It's obviously, I saw AMD, very cheap, $27. And this wasn't even the first time I bought it. This is my example that I can actually prove. I believe I was buying, $5 to $8, but I can't get back that far specifically on here, StockTwits. So I'm just going to show you when I was bullish then. I said, I don't think you'll ever see $30 again. It was $27 at the time, and I was right. But it took 39 months to hit the, about 500%. Now, that was pretty safe. I actually had a good amount in there. I sold out way too quickly. Another one, AMC. I said, you got to love the market. This was a long time ago, way before we even had the stock market drop. This is March of 2020. I've been invested in them, I think, since I started in like 2017, but I was long. And I said, got to love the market being shorted by amateurs on margin, not knowing how the short uptick rule works. They will squeeze themselves Monday. Once the news this week changes, it will stabilize and shorts will be destroyed in most stocks, causing a squeeze in everything that's undervalued. It was $6 then. I believe that there was high short interest. I believe this stock was going to run hard, and it went up, at the peak, it was 2,000%. And it took about 15 months from the time I posted that. I didn't make the top there either. Same thing, Blink. That was, it was back in 2019. I think it was, it says December, and it was like $1 or something. And this ran, I think it took around 13 months to run 3,000%. I saw the whole EV thing come in. I was obviously in Tesla. I liked what they were doing, the charging. And I sold out way too early on that one. I do the work, and the past couple years really has helped me really see the long term. Swing trading, day trading. I've made good money in that, but really where it's at is long term investing. The next one, the last one I'll talk about was SPI. This was a same thing, stocks, in the energy sector. It was down to $1. Okay, I didn't trade this stock, but this is my level 2 here. And this is when I saw it early. I saw it at like $4 or something. I saw the volume and I was like, you know what, maybe I'll take a trade in this. It was overnight. It ran 4,000%. Okay, overnight. And that's what this market can do. 4,000% overnight. The stock's not even close to what it was, but it had a squeeze. So that's what these stocks can do. Look at this, 13 months Blink, 15 months AMC, 39 months AMD, 18 months Paladin, 5 months GameStop, and 31 months for Tesla. These are life-changing gains, especially if you have the guts to go in, pretty big, and you've done the work. And that's what I've done with uranium. That's why I talk about it so much. But you see here, I did the work, and a lot of times I let the market get to me. You can ask people I know. I was very bullish in these, and I talked about them all the time, even outside of the stock market. I talk to people every day about a lot of these stocks, and people kind of got annoyed by it. But look, I mean, look at the gains that you could have had, a few $100,000 in here. And some of these, literally makes you a multi-millionaire, 9+ figures you can make in this. But that's where we're at in the markets. Uranium stocks, they could do the same thing here. Especially with uranium price hitting all-time highs. Look at this. A lot of these are still up thousands of % from the time that I bought them. And a lot of these I have sold out. I sold a lot of uranium stocks in the last, couple months. I did think that the market, was going to have a correction overall. I'm very bullish on management teams that can get into production, those with permits. And on the exploration side, those that are safer from these, First Nations, in jurisdictions that are, very pro-uranium. Those are, plays that I like. And this uranium market is going to be, I think, one of the greatest trades. And as you saw from that, chart specifically that I showed you, those charts, those in the past 5 years, those were the ones that I can look back and say, I did the work. I was long on those. I was long on every single one of those except the SPI. And if I stayed long, I wouldn't even probably be making these videos. I would have made, more than likely 9 figure profits in those. And, I probably would be doing a lot of other things right now. I love making these videos. I love, encouraging people to do the research. When you look at these, stock charts and stuff, you look at the uranium chart, a lot of people, use technical analysis. Technical analysis is fine. Fundamentals to me is like an MRI. Okay. The doctor can also ask the patient questions. He's going to be able to see really what's going on. I think that a technical analysis is like just using a thermometer. A doctor can see that the temperature is high and make all these speculations, but without really thoroughly going in, you're not going to diagnose and see if it's good. And right in here, you look at this, I say whatever, bullpen it. I have all the books. I have 100 books on stocks, charts, and, I've bought them all. And really, where it comes down to me is long-term investing, the fundamentals, doing the research. Call the CEO, talk to him, email him, whatever. Investor relations, ask him questions. And with uranium, I think that it's looking good on the technical and fundamental side. Even with the pullback, I mean, you can't make this stuff up. China reportedly plans to build 150 new nuclear reactors in the next 15 years. Where do you think that demand is going to come from? The demand in uranium is going to go, sky high. It's going to be coming from the East, India as well. Other countries throughout the East are very bullish on nuclear power, and Japan themselves are going to be restarting a lot of those. We saw in my video, or in my previous video, I talked about, I think, the restarts. Okay, Japan literally just restarted Shikoku Electric. If they're going to be restarting some of these reactors, and this is a smaller one, okay? If they're going to start to restart a lot of these, obviously not here, Fukushima, but if they're going to be restarting a lot of these, there will be more demand coming in. People didn't even really expect this. So I think that the sentiment just has never been greater. I think that this is really going to, uranium stocks are going to have a big upside, 50 to 60%. Look at that, 50 to 60%. What is the upside? 150%. And then when you start to get into, if they go down even more, look at the upside. So there's no doubt, the big traders know this, okay? And they have a lot of cash. A lot of them probably sold out, a lot of their blue chips, and they're going to be wanting to get into the stocks. Look at the upsides here. If they're, the big fish putting in money, look at the upsides that they could have on just the pullback from the 52. We're going to start to possibly see new long-term contracts for uranium. But the main thing about this video is to encourage people to do the research, do the MRI on the stock, and to also just really, you got to keep track of your stock trades. Go back and look and see if you did the due diligence. Did the stock go up like you thought it would? Majority of the time, most stocks will, if they have good management and if they have a good, pipeline. If they want to, like in uranium, if they got permits, do they have management that really can get them into production? When the price of uranium goes up, that uranium, that they're getting out of the ground, the valuations of the company is going to go up a lot more. And we're probably going to see an overshoot. And I think this is going to be a long-term bull market. I got rid of a lot of stocks that were either underperformers or that I was up enough. in that I felt like I should hold cash, and now I'm over 50% cash now. So I will be buying more uranium stocks, and I'm very excited to see where things go, and I'm very bullish uranium. And until next time.